Okay. Go ahead. Sure.
So, on the migrants' rights, you have successfully riveted the nation's attention on mass migration.
I hear you.
Florida is not a sanctuary state. Do you think the process of what has been done, what you all are doing,
if you had done it with notice, if you had called your counterpart in Massachusetts and said, Governor, we're sending you 50 Venezuelan migrants, they'll land at 3 o'clock tomorrow, do you think that might have taken some of the teeth out of the blowback and criticism?
Absolutely not. You know how I know that? Biden has dumped people all over the fruited plain in the middle of the night with zero notice. There's small towns that are getting inundated with people with zero notice. And so that's not something that they've been doing. So the issue is just simply, we had a policy when Joe Biden took office that was working. It was orderly. There's a whole cottage industry that anyone that wants to get in should just claim asylum. Most of these people clearly do not qualify for asylum. So that is being abused. So when you have a process like Remain in Mexico, someone can still make the claim, but then this way, when it's denied, you're not going to get entry in the United States on that basis. Joe Biden reversed that policy, and he reversed many others. So now you have massive chaos that's happening, millions and millions of people coming across illegally. Yes, you have really serious things happening along the way to the border, which no one seems to care about. You have people that once they get in are basically destitute in some parking lot. They're not upset about that. They're not upset about all the fentanyl that's coming into this country and is now leading to record fentanyl deaths. And that would not be happening if we had a secure border. And yes, Maduro is releasing people from prison. This is being used strategically to weaken our country. So if you have criminal aliens coming in and they victimize Americans, those crimes should not have happened if we just had a secure border. So no one really cared about that on the national media perspective until 50 show up in Martha's Vineyard. And you got to ask yourself, you have to ask yourself on this, okay, why is that such a big deal, but it wasn't a big deal when 50 migrants died in some shed in Texas? Is it just because they didn't want their wealthy island to be having to be exposed to the unwashed masses, and they were offended that they actually had to deal with reality? So I think we have a situation in this country where we have a policy that is simply unjustifiable. But the people that support the policy are imposing the costs of that policy on other people. They don't want to have to pay any type of cost on this. And don't forget, this is an island that advertised to be sanctuary, and they said they didn't have the resources to take 50. Well, just imagine how all these other places across our country are having to be do. So it's chaotic. It's not the way you do business. Now everybody is talking about it. And look, they're busing to New York City, D.C., all this stuff. And that's not the solution, though. The solution is to recognize the policy has failed and to change the policy. And you could do that very easily in ways that have been proven to work. So hopefully we're going to be talking about this a lot more now. This was not an issue of concern even 2 weeks ago. Now it seems to be on the front burner, so we're proud of that. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Governor. What was Florida's jurisdiction with respect to that specific matter? If they were in Texas and then was in Massachusetts, how did you get involved?
So we got involved. Well, we have operations on the Panhandle, and we've seized about $500,000 worth of drugs. There have been arrests for human smuggling, but this is like 1 or 2 people come in at a time. And unfortunately, what law enforcement does is just release the migrant and only goes after the smuggler. So we have people, and many of them say they'd like to go to Florida. And so basically the contractor is identifying who they think, they didn't necessarily say that, but they're profiling. And then they come to the Panhandle, and then the flight is goes from the Panhandle in. But there's really no way that you could do this effectively, because remember, $12 million to relocate away from Florida into sanctuary jurisdictions. So that's just been the most effective way way to do it. And, you know, at the end of the day, part of the reason is if you have a law enforcement bust, all the transport is voluntary. So if someone's already in Florida and that's where they wanted to be, we can say, hey, you know, we'll do a bus and bring up somewhere, but they do not have to do that. Here, I think it's a much more sensible thing to do, and I think it's been effective. Yes, sir. Oh, well, right. I mean, yeah. We believe the regime in Venezuela is illegitimate. We believe that Maduro is a dictator along the lines of a Raul Castro, and I think he's done immeasurable damage to that country. I just met with Brazil's ambassador to U.S. today. They have absorbed over 1 million people from Venezuela because of what's going on. But here's the thing: Biden was asked, hey, how come you can't keep control of the border? He's like, well, I'm having to deal with Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Are those new dictatorships? Have those not been dictatorships for a long time? And not only that, he's soft on all those dictatorships. It would be one thing if he was actually willing to apply pressure and then say it's causing people to need asylum, but he's coddling them. He's willing to go and play footsie with Maduro. He didn't lift a finger last summer when the Cuban people were rising up to take on the Raul Castro regime. And of course, he's going to be buddy-buddy with Nicaragua and then the new Colombian president, who's very leftist. So that's just the nature of what we're seeing here. I've been opposed to them playing footsie with Maduro the whole time, but nevertheless, kind of here we are. Yes, ma'am. It's not an expenditure. What it is the money is there, and then as expenses are done, it'll get drawn down. But that has not been put to use necessarily. And remember, there's a lot of other things that go on this, just other than just the transport. Yes, ma'am.
Now they're leaking that they may actually be charging Hunter Biden with very minor charges relative to the crimes that he apparently committed. And look, we don't want bad stuff to happen, but they're leaking that couple of minor charges relatively compared to the kind of charges that they could be. And that's up to them. But are they actually going to do the right thing and hold the Bidens accountable, or is this just a charade and an excuse to continue targeting me and our movement of Make America Great Again and America First? I don't know. I think they're doing this for a little reason. I think they want to target us, and they make it look a little bit more fair when they throw out a couple of charges about Hunter. Now, you know what's happening. It's a disgrace what's happening in this country. And it is prosecutorial misconduct, and the people in this country aren't going to take it. Remember this. They've come after me now for 6 years. A friend of mine who's a very successful guy said, you have to be the most honest guy in the world. My son, who runs the company, Eric Trump, he's probably in the history of the world, he's probably the most subpoenaed person from Congress every week, every day, every month, we got to a point where we just stack them up. But there's never been anything like it. It's a disgrace. You know, instead of focusing on our country and focusing on all the problems ahead and focusing on all the potential that we have as a country, all they do is keep investigating and investigating the Russia hoax. And it seems to be always turning around, doesn't it, where they created the Russia hoax, and they were the ones that dealt with Russia in order to create the fake document, the fake dossier, and all of the things that they've done, the crimes that they've committed. It's a disgrace. But it's crystal clear that they're coming after me because I fight for you and I fight for America, and they're not used to that because they don't want people fighting for America. And because we are leading big in all the polls and winning all across the country, both against Republicans, which, you know, I'm proud to do, and Democrats, which I'm even more proud to do, but we're winning against everybody. Never before in American history has our country seen such corruption and abuse of power as we are witnessing right now, the radical left is no longer about socialism. It's not anymore. It's about communism. They've stepped over socialism. They've forgotten about the word socialism, and that's where our country is headed. And I predicted this a long time ago. I saw what was happening. I predicted a lot of things. You ever see the hat? Trump was right about everything. Look what happened with Russia. Should have never happened, what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. If the Democrats win, the communists win, and soon they will send their thugs, their criminals, their angry left-wing prosecutors, and the 87,000 new IRS agents that are allowed to carry guns, by the way. You know, they're all anti-gun, right? But the prosecutors, these agents are allowed to carry. Think of that. They want to stop you from having a gun, but those 87,000 people are allowed to carry guns. They want to walk in and come after you. If Republicans win, the communists lose, the globalists lose, the deep state bureaucrats lose, the Silicon Valley censors lose, the corrupt fake news lose, the media bosses lose, and the rhinos lose. The rhinos are no good. But America wins, and America wins very big.